Hi everybody, it's great to be back here again on Itamar. It's Friday, and it's really great to be back because we were away for 2 weeks in the States, and you're probably wondering where was I, where I disappeared to. But my wife and I were on a speaking tour, and we were an important shlichut, an important mission in America. But there's no place like home, and there's no place like the land of Israel, the spirituality here. I'll tell you, you feel it immediately when you enter the land. My greatest part of coming back to the land is when you actually, the pilot announces that in another half an hour we'll be landing in Tel Aviv, and actually when the plane comes in and you just, right out of the water, like even the last minute, you're like, yeah, you want to look, you're waiting to see the shoreline of Israel, and you see the shoreline of Tel Aviv and the land of Israel, and it is so special to feel, wow, after going so far over the sea, over the ocean, you know, and traveling such a long distance and coming home, and it's so special. And sometimes when you actually leave, you know, you leave something that you love so much and you come back to it, you appreciate it all the more so. But honestly, I do, when I wake up every day, I always thank Hashem for what I have here, living in the land. And as I give this lesson, I'm looking out my living room window. You're looking at my bookshelf, and I'm looking out the living room window at the beautiful mountains of the blessing. Right across over here, as we know, Mount Gerizim and Mount Eval is on the right. And we live in the land. We actually could witness these beautiful places every day. It's a tremendous zechut to be here. Well, getting down to our Torah lesson today, I'd like to begin, because I want to focus on the love of Torah, connecting to this week's portion, what it means, what it really means to acquire Torah. In order to begin, we will start with a Mishnah from Pirkei Avot, the ethics of our forefathers, the ethics of our fathers, in chapter 2, verse 8. Verse 8 meaning, Mishnah 8, talks about Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai. He was a Tana in the Second Temple period, right before destruction. He lived at the period of destruction of the temple. And it says like this, Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai kibel mehillel v'Shammai. He received Torah from the two great teachers, Hillel v'Shammai, and it's Hu haya omer. And he used to say, what does it mean he used to say? He used to say refers to a Torah that he used to go over a lot. He lived this part. It wasn't just saying it, it was something that he actually lived. This particular, it was his bread and butter Torah. And what was it? Im lamadata Torah harbe. If you learned a lot of Torah in your lifetime, al tachzik tov al atzmacha. You shouldn't pride yourself in the fact that you're a great learned person in Torah. Why? Ki lechach notzalta. Because you were created for this purpose. Hashem created the people of Israel to be Torah scholars, to learn, to study Torah. And therefore, a person shouldn't say, wow, pat himself on the back, I'm a great Torah scholar, wow. Look at me, praise me. No. This is what you're created for. The reason that you were created, Hashem says, you have a purpose in this world, is to study Torah. And then the Mishnah continues in saying, Chamishat talmidim hayu l'Rabban Yochanan ben Zakkai. He had 5 students. Ve'elohen, and these are the students, and it goes on to list them, Rabbi Eliezer ben Hukunus, Rabbi Yoshua ben Chananya, Rabbi Yossi HaKohen, Rabbi Shimon ben Netanel, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. He lists all the 5 students, but I want to focus on Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, because he gives praise to each of these students, what their qualities were. And when he praises Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, he says, Ma'yan mitgaber, he was a spring that was constantly getting stronger. As you know, when something we have a vessel, it's a complete full vessel, and as it's emptying out, it gets weaker. But here he's getting stronger. The spring is being blessed, which is his Torah was constantly blessed within him. This is the praise given to Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. At the end of the Mishnah actually does a weighing game. It says, how do the students compare in their greatness? And the Mishnah puts 4 students on one side of the scale, and Rabbi Elazar ben Arach on the other side of the scale. And the Mishnah says that he outweighed the 4 of the students, showing his greatness. So we see in this Mishnah how great this Tana, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach was. Well, I'd like to bring down a passage of Talmud, which actually, one can ask a question this whole thing, and try to understand this. Why? The Gemara brings a story down in page 147b, and it says like this in the Tractate of Shabbat. Amar Rabbi Chelbo. Rabbi Chelbo says, he was one of the Amoraim, Chamra de Pogita, a wine from a place called Pogita, Umaya de Diomset, and water from a place called the Yomset. Kipchu aseret hashvatim Yisrael. The 10 tribes of Israel were their downfall was caused by wine and water. What does it mean? Rashi explains on the spot. The wine in that particular area was very, very special wine, and the water, I guess these were hot springs, whatever it was. They were very, they got very attracted to these physical pleasures of that area. And in other words, the Gemara is really hinting to the fact that they let their physical pleasures of life, the enjoyment, the materialism of life, to take them down and to distract them from from leading a life of Torah. And that's what really caused the downfall of the 10 tribes, of eventually being banished from the land, expelled, kidnapped from the land, as we say in the king of Assyria, and actually lost. The end of days, as we all know, the 10 tribes are going to come back home again. But what caused their downfall, and what caused them to fall, was their fall in spirituality due to the wine and the water of this particular place. But anyway, right after that, the Gemara continues the story and says, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach ikla latam. This rabbi we just spoke about, his greatness, that he outweighed all the other students, the student of Rabbi Yochanan ben Zakkai on the scale. He actually visited this place but had that great wine and water. Imshich batrayu. And what happened? He wanted to bathe. He went to bathe in that river and drink of those wines, which means he was drawn towards those pleasures himself. And what happened? Iakal talmudeh. He forgot his Talmud, which means he began to forget his Torah study. Ki hadar ata. When he returned and he came back to the land, kam lemikre besifra. He got up to read from the Torah. Be'a lemikra. He was supposed to read this week's portion, parashat Bo. What he was supposed to read? HaChodesh hazeh lechem Rashei Chodesh. In this month is supposed to be the first of all the months. Rishon, it's supposed to be the first of all the months of the year, and that's what he was supposed to read. As a matter of fact, if I open up the verse right in front of us, he was supposed to read the verse like this: HaChodesh hazeh lechem Rosh Chodeshim. Rishon hu lachem lechodshei hashana. It is the first of all the months of the year. And that's what he's supposed to say. But instead of saying it, this is the first of the months of the year, what did he say? So the Gemara goes on to say, he said this. He said, Hacheresh haya libam. He's saying instead that their hearts became deaf. Now why? If you look at the word chodesh, in Hebrew the word chodesh is spelled chet dalet shin. The dalet could sometimes look like a resh, it could look like a different letter. So if you read it the wrong way, if you confuse the letters, you can read hacheresh. Instead of saying the word lachem, you can read it libam. You can replace the kaf, which is similar to the letter bet in Hebrew, and he's saying their hearts were sealed. I mean, they were dead. Referring to the fact that he's forgotten his Torah, and that's what he actually read. So what happened? Both Rabbanan Rachamele, the rabbis, prayed for mercy upon this great Tana, Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, Vadal Talmudei, and his Torah returned to him. Now, of course, the Gemara, when it tells us the story in the Talmud, it is something that's very, very deep, and it's not meant to be understood on only a simple level, but to realize the deepness behind this whole story. So again, what is the question here? What happened to Rabbi Elazar ben Arach, this great rabbi that actually almost fell into these pleasures? The greatest of all the students. What is the message the Talmud is trying to teach us from the story? And let's connect it to this week's portion. First of all, we know that right now these portions that are coming up now, there are 6 chapters that talk about the Yetziat Mitzrayim. We're learning all about the Exodus from Egypt. And the Al-Shich HaKadosh, one of the great commentators, he asks a very important question. And his question is, why did we have to go? Why did the Jewish people have to go through this terrible, terrible bondage and slavery? And the Maharal develops this more. If we think about it, Avraham Avinu prayed so hard for Sodom. What did he say? He prayed when Hashem wanted to wipe out the city of Sodom. He prays and says, "Please Hashem, if there are righteous people in this place, do not destroy the city." And he keeps praying, until finally he can't anymore. It doesn't work. Hashem was looking for someone righteous, and they didn't find anyone righteous to save the city. But we know how much Abraham put himself on the line to pray to try to save the city of Sodom. And here, after the covenant of Beina Betarim, between the animal parts, as we all know that Abraham, God said, you should know that your children will be slaves 400 years. And what does Abraham do? Nothing. He does not pray to try to prevent the enslavement of the Jewish people, knowing that his children will be enslaved for 400 years. On the other hand, he's praying for Sodom. Not only that, we see that Esav and Yishmael, right, the son of Avraham Avinu, which is Yishmael, he was not at all included in the decree of going down to Egypt, or neither was Esav also. He wasn't included in this punishment of going down to Egypt. So the question is, fine, come and say hello. My son is walking to the room here. Okay, fine. But he wasn't included in that whole decree of going down to Egypt. The question is why? You want to ask me something, Brian?
Yeah.
Okay. My son of just got back from the army and he's a little smiling on the side over here, but he's just smiling, and I wanted to get him to say hello, but he's shy, he's camera shy. But anyway, we'll go on. So the question is, Al-Sheikh is asking, why didn't Avram pray that this wouldn't happen? And why was only Jacob that had to suffer slavery? And why wasn't it Esav and Yishmael, that they were also in the family lineage in a way, right? They were separated out of the house of Israel, but they didn't have to go through the bondage of slavery in Egypt. So what does this all mean? How do we connect it with what I just said? Well, in order to understand this, it's brought down in Rabbi Tzadok HaKohen Melublin, it's brought down in the Maharal of Prague, the concept of understanding that in this world, everything is really understood, how can I say, through sometimes opposites in this world. For example, in order to understand what light is, you need to see darkness. And for something to grow, a lot of times it has to go through the worst, a process that seems to be the opposite, of growth. And right out of that, darkness can spring forth life. What's an example? You take a seed, and you put a seed in the ground. The seed is going to rot, and then all of a sudden it extends its roots, and of course its stem, and it begins to sprout. So the first stage of a growing process happens through sometimes a process of destruction or a process of rotting, and then from that out of that rot could stem forth life. This we see, of course, with Abraham when he went down to when he was with his father, and he came from a house of idol worship, from the house of such evil idol worship. His father, a terach, terrible idol worshiper. Out of that house, this beautiful light of Abraham came forth. In the same way as we all know that Egypt was a land of such uncleanliness, a land of tumah, of idol worship, terrible idol worship. And out of this land, and out of that terrible situation of Egypt, where the Jewish people actually fell down to the lowest levels, out of that, the light of Torah came about. And what does this all mean? In order for us, this is a part of the process of this world, in order for the light of the Torah to shine, to come forth, right? It has to come out of a situation of the most darkest situation in the world. This is part of the process of life. As I mentioned before, the seed that rots in the ground that comes forth. You take a potato, you put it in the ground, it rots, and then out of the eyes of the potato, it begins to spring forth. This concept is all about going through a situation in Egypt. Now, why? There's a beautiful chidah. One of the great rabbis of Israel talks about that there are, we all know, 613 commandments, and every commandment, a person, there are 365, as we say, and 365 positive commandments, and 365 negative, 240 positive commandments. Out of these numbers, every one of these commandments represent a certain limb of a person's body. Okay? For example, a person, his arm hurts him. It's connected to a certain mitzvah. Maybe he has to do the tefillin, put on the tefillin with a little more kavanah, a little more, intention. Proper. Every mitzvah, every command we do, we are strengthening our physical body. So we're combining the spiritual by doing these mitzvot. We bring the spiritual world and it meets together the physical world. Together, we are a whole individual. And so this is the connection between the mitzvot to our body. Sometimes when a person is feeling a certain pains and aches, wow, maybe it's a good sign that we have to work on a particular mitzvah because our spiritual selves are connected to our physical self. And he says something brought down very interesting, the chidah, when a person God forbid, falls to the sin of idol worship, which is the worst sin of all, his entire body could be in pain and ill. So in order to rectify the entire body, it talks about an amazing thing. What happened? When the Jewish people were in Egypt, the entire body was sick, full of this idol worship, because they were all entrenched in idol worship society. And therefore, the entire body had to go through a cleansing. And what was that cleansing? That cleansing was circumcision. The Brit Milah, the covenant of the Milah, the circumcision, is what causes the entire body in terrible pain. That terrible pain that the Jewish people had to go through in Egypt before we were able to bring the Paschal sacrifice, was that pain we went through was really cleansing ourselves of this idol worship in Egypt. So from the darkness of Egypt, from the idol worship of Egypt, we were able to spring forth life in the life of the Torah. The Torah cannot be given only after we cleanse ourselves of these terrible, terrible atrocities of idol worship. And that is the whole story of Egypt. We had to go down to Egypt because only those who are later on going to receive the Torah, we have to suffer, we have to cleanse ourselves, because we're the ones later on we're going to see the Torah in Sinai. And therefore it was the Jewish people who had to go down and suffer these years. And that's why Abraham didn't pray to nullify the exile. The exile was an important process of our redemption. In order to see the light afterwards, we had to actually get down into the mud and see what uncleanliness was all about. Because that's how growth comes about, through the uncleanliness. Something grows out of it and stems and it rectifies the terrible, terrible darkness. Is rectified by actually being in the darkness and lighting and igniting the spark within the darkness. And that is the whole concept. Again, it's a very deep concept. We see it throughout the Torah. We see this concept. And of course, we see this in regarding, more than anything, of course, receiving the Torah. We're out of Egypt, out of a terrible situation. We came and we're able now, we purified to receive Torah in the land of Israel. And this, of course, brings us back to the story I mentioned, I opened up with, of Rabbi Elazar ben Arach. This great student was a great Torah scholar. There was no one greater than this student. He felt himself when he was out there, out of the land. He was brought down by the wine and the water to represent the pleasures of life. That a person, Egypt, of course, was completely entrenched in worldly pleasures. On the other hand, Torah is the exact opposite. When a person wants to really become a great Torah person, he has to eliminate these pleasures of life. Not that he can't be a happy person and be, of course, a person has to be happy, but he has to put the emphasis of his life on Torah study and not running after materialism and the material ways of life. That opposes the acquisition of Torah. And that, of course, was all what Egypt was all about, and that really, of course, goes against acquisition of Torah. We have to overcome. And from the story of the Talmud, we learn that even the greatest person, the greatest scholar, can forget his Torah. Doesn't mean how great he is. If you entrench yourselves, you fall into the hanaot, the pleasures, too much running after the pleasures of life, you can actually fall and forget your Torah study, which means you can disconnect yourself from the lifeline of Torah. Because Torah, of course, has to be acquired through devotion and constantly trying to uplift yourself and separate yourself from the physical as much as you can. Of course, I've spoken about this concept many times. Of course, a human being in this world, we have a physical side to us. We have an important need in that physical need to survive, to live, to be happy in this world. We have to put things in the right proportion. We cannot invest ourselves a whole life. People running after always. If you look at today in society today, it's like they constantly want to get the better. It's like constantly in a race to get a more advanced machine, constantly trying to advance themselves in technology. Like this cell phone is not good enough. You have to get a better one, a faster one, a nicer one, or a nicer car, or nicer this, or nicer that. People have to say to themselves, wait a second, maybe I should be focusing on getting my soul intact more than anything else, and perfecting ourselves more than anything else. That should be our focus in life. But anyway, it's great to be back in the land. I love you all. I missed you all. And let's really get back down to a very serious Torah study in the coming weeks and months. Shabbat Shalom. We'll be in touch. We'll see each other soon.